The Celtics begin their championship defense. The season starts, Keefe,
That's
if
right.
you will.
Brand new year.
On Sunday, Game 1 against the Orlando Magic at TD Garden.
Yeah, this is it. We've been waiting all year because, let's be honest, when the team is as good as the Celtics are, and we've seen it in years past, and we've even kind of dealt with it with the Patriots for a number of years, the regular season, like there are certain moments you get a little bit more excited for than others, but it's kind of formality. Like you're like, all right, get to the playoffs, be as healthy as possible, and then from here is when the season really begins. And it's a nice warm-up against a team like Orlando. Nobody's picking Orlando to win or anything like that. But you sort of start there and see if this team can repeat. And for the Celtics, not only would it be the first repeat in the NBA in a number of years, it'd be the first repeat in Celtics history in decades. Like, it's been forever since they've won 2 in a row here.
Right. Again, I know people tend to misremember the 80s, as we illustrated earlier today.
Yeah.
But Bird never repeated.
Yeah, they got a coach fired. They got swept by the Bucks. Like, there was some downtime in there.
Cowens and Havlicek never repeated. I think most people are aware Pierce and Garnett didn't even win 2.
Right.
Never mind repeated. So that's something you can do that hasn't been done since the late 60s with the Boston Celtics. You can jump in all your thoughts on the Magic series if you have them. Both Keefe and I think it's going to be a walkover. I did see a tweet at Jones WEEI at Keefe21 earlier today. We become green teamers, Keefe. The Magic take it at least 6 games.
I mean, what?
I mean, if you feel that way,
How?
fine. Go ahead. 617-779-7937. I personally don't find the Orlando series overly interesting. I don't think the Celtics would have much trouble with the Knicks in round 2, but I find that to be a more interesting series. Cleveland definitely come the NBA Finals for sure. But I don't find this matchup to have much juice to it. I am interested in Jayson Tatum and whether or not we properly appreciate him in this town and what he's going to do in this postseason run, because last year he did not shoot it well. Sure, he led the team in points and rebounds and assists in the postseason. I'm not saying that's nothing, but he was inefficient and he was outplayed by Jaylen Brown, and that was against a really ridiculously easy path to the finals. So Tatum, to me, beyond Jaylen Brown and his injury, we spent a lot of time talking about that this week, last week, etc. You can still jump in on that. How Tatum handles the postseason, to me, is very interesting. I know you, on some level, agree with Stephen A. Smith. You think he's underappreciated.
Yeah, I kind of do. I think, it's a guy that is going to be All-NBA first team for the 4th time in his career this year, right? Like, I think everybody sort of assumes, like, he definitely will be first team All-NBA. And looking this up, I was pretty surprised to see that would equal the number of first team All-NBAs by Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen combined.
In their careers? Not their Celtics careers. Their careers.
In their Celtics careers, it blows it out of the water.
I mean, so that is something.
So Garnett only was first team All-NBA 4 times. Okay. Pierce and Allen never were first team All-NBA.
I see. So it was all Garnett.
It was all Garnett, but I juiced up the stat a little bit. It's a cooler stat that way.
But that makes a little more sense, but still. So he will make more first team All-NBA teams than
or as many. It'll tie because Garnett himself is 4. This will be Tatum's 4th.
He would match the second iteration of the Big 3.
Yeah. And so he's not an MVP. Right? Like Garnett came to Boston as already an MVP. And some of the guys that we compare Tatum to now have won league MVP. So he's not that. But as much as I love Paul Pierce, Jayson Tatum's career to this point has been so much better than Pierce's. And they have the title. The title is equal. Now, Pierce has the finals MVP, if you want to get into that and how much that weighs in on it. But what a second title could possibly mean for Tatum is through the roof. But even before the second title, I do think, for whatever reason, I don't know if he's taken for granted because he's been so good his entire career. They've been a playoff team his entire career, and people were getting impatient even when he was like 23 years old as to why he hadn't won a title yet. And then he does break through. And, yeah, he's just so consistent. I mean, this year his assist total is higher than it's ever been. His rebounding is up from a year ago. His scoring has been super consistent. His teams always win a ton of games. They're always a contender. So, yeah, I think he is kind of overlooked a little bit when we talk about, like, great players.
Yeah, underappreciated. I'd probably skew that way. I mean, I certainly take little digs here and there, and I expect a lot out of him, which is why I do that. If you want to say he's a little taken for granted, like I think that's all fair, and you're probably right. Do you have theories on why that is, Keefe? If he is underappreciated, you feel that way, and perhaps you disagree on the phone, 617-779-7937. If you feel that he is underappreciated, taken for granted, etc., why do you think that is?
I mean, it could be a number of things. He doesn't have the biggest personality in the world, right? So he's a little bit dull.
Stephen A. brought that up.
Yeah.
I think that's a factor.
I think that is a little bit of it. And also, he's in a league where I think a lot of the attention is still on the guys that are a little bit older than him, right? So you're in a league with LeBron, Curry, and Durant. But then you also have like the international guys that have won MVPs like Jokic and Giannis. So you're in the league with all these guys at the same time. It's kind of hard to stand out from there. And he's never truly I don't think he's like a real MVP candidate, and yet he's first team All-NBA all the time. So it's like he's top 5. Nobody's arguing that he's the best player in the NBA, but he's always consistently top 5. His team is really good, which can work both for you and against you, meaning everybody around him's really good, right? Like Jaylen Brown's good. They have the best roster in my opinion. So maybe you don't stand out quite as much. But yeah, I don't know. I think the personality probably does have a big thing to do with it. Like Tim Duncan didn't get a ton of credit until maybe the end of his career. Kawhi Leonard, I feel like it's bypassed sometimes when talking about the best players of like this generation when he's really right up there. So that it could be as simple as that.
So the personality thing, I think, is real and probably works against him. That's not really fair. Your personality is your personality. Duncan's a great comp. Even Curry to a degree. I mean, Curry's not the biggest personality.
No, but I guess the way he plays is like unique enough where it's
true.
like that stands out.
I mean, you effectively change the game.
You ruin the league.
The way the game is played.
you and LeBron single-handedly ruin the league.
You ruin the league in some ways. So that one's not really Tatum's fault. I think Stephen A., certainly our caller in the van earlier today, gave him much too much credit for not getting in any trouble off the court.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving him credit for that.
That's true.
Yeah.
But what, I'm supposed to give you credit for that because you haven't been arrested? Like, that's a low bar.
Right.
So it's a fair thing to point out. He seems like a good enough guy. Not that we ever really know these guys, but fine, chalk that up in his favor. I think what works against him is he wasn't the finals MVP. He wasn't the Eastern Conference Final MVP last year, though he was when they got to the finals 2 years prior.
Right.
And lost to the Warriors. He was the conference finals MVP against the Bucks that year. But, to me, I just look at it and I say, or I'm sorry, was that again? Who was that? Was that Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference
Or was
Finals?
it the Heat?
Was it the Heat? I think it was.
I
take that back.
Bucks,
Sorry.
then Heat.
That was Miami.
Yeah.
Milwaukee was round 2. So I think what works against him is there's a little bit of he didn't carry the team to a title, and there's a little bit of he still isn't viewed as clutch, which is maybe fair or unfair. He just had a massive shot.
Yeah, he's had his moments.
To force overtime against New York. He came through in a big way in an elimination game against Philadelphia a few years ago. I just referenced that Milwaukee series in round 2 where he had a great game in game 6. So it's not to say he's never done it, but people want to see it more. Sidebar topic, when you're bringing up the second iteration of the Big Three with Garnett and Allen and Pierce, who would you rather have with the game on the line? Like, we agree that Tatum's a better player than Pierce. Who would you rather have taking that shot?
I'd rather have Pierce. Now, I'm sure you can find stats that would suggest maybe I shouldn't, but I would just, I would take Pierce.
But I think this is part of it.
But that's also worked against great players in the past. Yeah. I mean, LeBron James for years and years and years, it was like, yeah, he's unbelievable, but game on the line, like, do you want somebody else? And I think you did. And then he just kind of overwhelmed everybody, and it was just sheer number of MVPs and titles, even if you take one of them away for being in the bubble.
So I think that works against Tatum. And I think you consistently see that. I don't believe in him. He's not going to carry a team. He's not going to lead a team. I don't trust him in the clutch, this and that. And I agree with some of that. And by the way, that's not a Tatum thing. That's not unique to him. You highlighted LeBron. I mean, Magic Johnson won multiple championships by the mid-'80s and was referred to as Tragic Johnson.
Right.
There's a lot of that with NBA players. And so you can make a case none of them are properly appreciated. They're all underappreciated.
That might be true.
And so Tatum's just in that group. I don't think it's unique to him. But if you feel that way, why? And I think that clutch thing and not carrying the team to a title a year ago works against him. So how do you change that? How do you rectify that? Well, you hit some big shots.
Yeah. Finals MVP. That shuts a lot of people up.
Trying to repeat. I mean, I just think repeating would go a long way, Keith.
Oh, for sure.
But you're right. Finals MVP would go a long way to changing that. So how does Tatum be properly appreciated? How is he, no longer taken for granted? Be the best player on a championship team, the NBA Finals MVP, and then turn around and win back-to-back. If you check those two boxes, I'm going to start to agree with Tatum and say, well, what are we going to say now?
Yeah.
There won't be much left.
Yeah, no, I know. And I know some might say, well, it's only one award, Finals MVP, right? Like, it's only one thing with all these other things that he has accomplished. But when you get down to comparing the best of the best, all of the best players, I would say, like the at the tippy top, best players in the NBA over the last 10, 20 years, I think they've all been Finals MVP.
Yeah, Curry took forever, but he broke through and
So,
won
like,
it against the Celtics.
Garnett's an example, I guess, of a guy that wasn't. There's been some other league MVPs like James Harden, although that's another example. Like what people say about James Harden, they can't stand him. They think you would think he sucks if you listen to people talk about James Harden. But if he wants to be compared to Giannis and LeBron and Kawhi and Durant and Curry and Jokic, these are all recent Finals MVPs. So if he hits that, all right, like what are you going to do? Because that really was something that was being held over Curry's head for a little bit, and he did it against the Celtics a few years ago. But prior to that, he had won 3 titles, but it was hard for people to put them in like an all-time top 10 when he's surrounded by guys that were like Bird and Magic and Jordan, like multiple Finals MVPs.
Do you think, I know you think to this point, team success hurts him when it comes to the MVP vote compared to SGA and Jokic and guys like that. Do you think at some point the team success is so overwhelming, they win back-to-back,
yeah,
and he's Finals MVP? At some point, that is going to help him where people look at it and go, well, he was the best player.
On the best team for how many years?
And they've won back-to-back, and he's not an MVP. We better fix that. Like, at some point, and I don't know if back-to-back is enough or 2 championships is enough, but at some point, that team success is going to work in his favor to win an MVP.
Wait, are you talking about Finals or regular season?
No, I'm talking about regular season. Like, if they,
I don't know if
they win back-to-back,
yeah,
I think next year he's going to go in as a guy who is looked at as, again, we owe him one. He's due for one. He's going to be, I think, higher up the MVP ladder next year than he is this year. I think the team success will stop working against him and start working in his favor, which, by the way, if you're the best player on the best team, you should be in the MVP mix.
Yeah, you should. I don't know. Like, looking at it, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Curry won it before Durant got there. Durant
Curry,
won
league MVP?
League
Yes,
MVP.
He won it before Durant got there. Yep.
So I think like league MVP, I think for the most part, it is guys that don't have the greatest supporting cast. They might have good team success. But here are the last several MVPs, right? Curry won it back-to-back years in 15 and 16. Then Westbrook, one of those triple-double years, so he wasn't playing with Durant anymore. Harden with Houston. What was that? Maybe Chris Paul's year? I forget who he was teamed up with.
But they were right. They were like a 60-win team that were led by Harden. Yep.
Giannis won it back-to-back. Best player was Chris Middleton. Jokic won it back-to-back. Best player was Jamal Murray.
Yep.
Joel Embiid. And then Jokic won it last year, and this year's looking like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, in a weird way, having Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, White, and Holiday, I think does kind of hurt him a little bit.
I think if
in that specific voting.
I think, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think you want to launch yourself into true recognition and MVP candidacy, repeat. And so, look, I think they're in a good spot to repeat this year. You said earlier, I mean, you like Cleveland more than most.
I do.
I don't think Cleveland's going to take them down.
I don't.
Orlando's not going to get a game off them. I think the Knicks would be an interesting series, but the Knicks aren't going to beat them.
No.
So, yeah, they're in a real good spot to do it. And so you want Tatum to be properly appreciated. You want him to no longer be overlooked, repeat, and be the best player. And if you do those two things, which I think the Celtics are in a good spot for, we'll see if he's up to it, then he'll get his just due. You don't need to cry about it. He'll get his just due eventually.
It's funny, though. You made a good point about how just all the top NBA guys get picked apart. Like, them and quarterbacks are the most examined, most like tear down athletes.
But that is what makes it fun. Like, that's why it's fun to argue about quarterbacks and debate quarterbacks, because we nitpick even the best ones.
Well,
like
those
they
are the
suck.
ones that are most responsible for your team winning a title. It's hard to do that in baseball because
there are still people who are like, Josh Allen's never won squat.
Yeah,
and people are, I don't even like Josh Allen. And same thing in the NBA. It's like, we nitpick Tatum. So that is what makes it fun. And I agree. They are singularly most responsible for team success.
But like it's certainly not unique to Tatum, right? So this isn't like a Boston bias or anything like that.
No,
if you go back,
people act that way, but it's not. Yeah.
But if you go back to when Golden State won back-to-back titles with Durant, it was sort of all right, whose team is it? And in a weird way, both Curry and Durant got criticized for it. So Curry let Durant come in and be Finals MVP back-to-back years, but then Durant had to join a team that had already won a title. So it was like you could rip both guys, and they kind of did. And that's why I think Curry has had such a big boost after the fact, because Durant has been to a bunch of teams and failed since he left Curry. Curry won another title. So I feel like that debate, like who's better, Curry or Durant?
Oh, Curry.
Curry.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas at the time there might have been a little bit more of a debate. Like, Durant's an insanely talented player and is one of the most skilled players ever. But people look at it like you had to team up with a winner, and then after you left that team, you haven't been able to do anything.
Right.
Besides score a bunch of points.
Honestly, if you're a Celtics fan and you feel that way about Durant, that's exactly how you should feel right now about Tatum.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know Durant was the finals MVP in that situation, but it's like Durant had to go somewhere and be carried by somebody else. Is certainly how I look at it now, and even how I looked at it at the time, even if Durant was the finals MVP. Last year, Tatum kind of carried to a championship.
But didn't have to go anywhere.
He didn't have to go anywhere.
He stayed here, and he's still the face of the team.
He is, but who was better in the postseason last year? I know people get all hot and bothered when you say he got carried to a title, which may be too strong. But Jalen was the better player. Tatum's efficiency fell off the face of the earth in the postseason last year. And so I think in some ways that is why people don't properly appreciate Tatum. So it's up to you, Jason. Jaylen Brown isn't healthy. I don't think, let's see on Sunday, I don't think he's fully healthy. So not only is there an opportunity to do it because Jalen's probably going to have lower usage and be leaned on less, the team needs you more now. So go do that. And I think you'll be properly appreciated. Do you agree with Stephen A. Smith? He's not properly appreciated. 617-779-7937. We can start to mix this in as well, Keefe. Celtics or the field? Wide open, I think, for the Celtics. If you had to vote right now, would you take the field or the Celtics?
So I'm going to take the Celtics, and it's because I think they're 100% getting to the finals. As much as I like the Cavs and Donovan Mitchell, and I think that might be a series, but I'm 100% taking them to get to the finals. I think the Thunder are the best team in the West. I will take the Celtics right now in like a nail-biter series over the Thunder, but the reason why I'm a little bit more confident in the overall answer is because no guarantee the Thunder get there. And if it's anybody other than the Thunder, I have quite a bit of confidence. And if it is the Thunder, I have like a smidge of confidence. So to answer your question, I'll take the Seas.
And I agree with the way you're looking at it. It's just who's more likely to get to the finals. The Celtics are more likely to get there. If it's Boston and OKC, I personally would take OKC. I would disagree with you on that. They're both healthy. It's best on best. I would take Oklahoma City over the Celtics. But I acknowledge the Thunder have a way tougher path to get there. And the Celtics are much more likely to get there. So if you're playing the odds, the Celtics will be there. I'm not sure the Thunder will. I get that logic. I would take the field over the Celtics based purely on OKC being the best team in the league and better head-to-head. When they played them this year, they got to get there. But I do think the Celtics have a relatively wide-open path to get there. I don't want to call it easy. Mm-hmm. Last year was easy. When you're missing superstars on the other side, they're injured, they're not even playing, that's easy. And that's historically a joke.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they get healthy teams this year, Orlando's healthy, New York/Detroit is healthy in round 2, Cleveland's healthy in the finals, I'm not going to call it easy. I do think it's wide open, but that's a credit to the Celtics. They're just that much better than the rest of the Eastern Conference.